This is TJR's Classic Rock Corner podcast, with your host, the Classic Rock Brainiac, yours truly, Terrence Reardon. Sit back and listen to me gush over albums that I love that either had an impact on my life or rock and roll in general, and be rest assured that there's no country or rap nonsense to be found here. So welcome to another exciting episode of TJR's Classic Rock Corner podcast. The king has returned. The boss is back. It's the Classic Rock Brainiac Terrence Reardon on TJR's Classic Rock Corner podcast. A show which hasn't been having many episodes as of late. Well, not because I don't want to do it, but because things got in the way. At least on this show, I don't talk about Sammy Hagar. That's the thing. The bottom line is there is no Hagar on the show. And I don't obsess over it like a show I used to associate myself with. Yeah, they know who they are. And they still like to crack the mom and nuts jokes. There's none of that on the show. It's Brainiac rock and roll research done with a quirky sense of humor, without the profanity, or minus many profanities these days. And today's show is going to be on a band that I have not ever talked about on either that show or any of the shows I've ever done. So this band wasn't discussed on either RMCP, they know who they are, or RMPC, which was Rock Metal Prog Central. Trying to recreate what I did with those guys, but it did well, but the RMCP camp got a little bent out of shape. I mean, they didn't talk about progressive rock, whereas I love that stuff. They don't. And I didn't talk about this band on CRIB, which was Carlson Reardon Innes Barnes podcast. That was the real name of it. I didn't call ourselves Crib because it sounded to me like a gangster rap show. Yo, what's up, motherfucker? Just kidding. I'm not racist, but I like to poke fun at the rap game. And I apologize for the F-bomb. And I didn't talk about on Terrence Reardon Experience, nor Terrence and Mark Experience, nor Terrence, Mark and Jake Experience, nor Terrence and Jake, nor Terrence Reardon and Friends, nor Terrence Reardon Podcast, nor under its original title of the show, Terrence's Classic Rock Corner. Calling it TJR's Classic Rock Corner is more classy. And this band is a theatrical rock band who many of its members were from Arizona, but based themselves in San Fran before it became a leftist hellhole. The band known as The Tubes. And I'll be talking about their 1981 classic, The Completion Backward Principle. Not because of how much it sold. I mean, yeah, quasi-spoiler, it was a top 40 album, and it did go gold, but for some reason the RIAA has been sitting on its keister to certify the damn thing. And also the people that signed the Tubes wound up getting overthrown off the label sometime in the 80s. But that's a story to tell during the review. But before I do that, I want to share some things, what's going on in the world with yours truly. I had a bad sinus infection since the last episode aired, so I sounded very nasal. And add on top of that, I had a thing called a big branch land on the hood of my car, and I had to get the darn thing fixed. Mother Nature likes to play practical jokes. Seems like the song That's Life from Frank Sinatra, which was better by Diamond Dave. Yeah, the Diamond Dave version was much better than Sinatra. And Dave took a few liberties of changing a few lyrics, especially with the Riding High on Monday, Shot Down in May. You could tell he was plastered when he did the cover. I'll be back on top in the month of June. Oh my goodness. Nobody ever gonna keep me down. See, Diamond Dave knew how to change things up a bit when he sang That's Life. But, life came and went. I had a good Thanksgiving. My brother drove out from Michigan, my biological brother, my best friend in the world, my brother JJ. I love you. Hope you can move back to the Bay State, although its political leanings are not the greatest in the world, but medical-wise, food-wise, we're still the best damn game in town still. And I can say this honestly because I've lived in red states. And cheaper doesn't mean better, folks. I mean, politically, I am libertarian with right-wing leanings, and I'm a Catholic. But The South is horrible. I lived in redneck land with, South Carolina. Yeah, they say it's Southern hospitality. My foot, if they see a bald head, they assume automatically that you're a racist or a Nazi or a KKK guy, but that's not me. Then they also claim that, Florida was, a free state. For who? The politicians? Not for the people who are trying to survive 9-to-5 jobs. It's not free. I mean, you can't even play your music loud because little tyrant Ronnie, yeah, that guy who was a poor man's Donald Trump, Trump's the man. This guy is just a wannabe and a politician, bureaucrat, stooge. He's Mr. Censorship. The way I see it, both political parties advocate it, some more extreme than others. The left wants cancel culture, the right wants cancel culture in another way. Can't we all just get along? I mean, I'm one of these people like, sheesh, whatever happened to having a middle of the road, middle ground thing? Oh yeah, that fell by the wayside over 4 decades ago. As the 1980s came to an end, and the 1990s came along with Mr. I tried, but I didn't inhale. That bum. I don't mean to veer off on my soapbox, folks, but that's just my opinion. At least on my show, I talk about, I can be funny, I can be serious. There's few far in between. And you don't see me nowadays taking cheap shots at former associates that I used to be friends with, who still don't like me. But that's life. There's no use in crying what you haven't got. I mean, I wish things turned out differently, but sadly, it wasn't meant to be. And that's all I can say about that. So without further ado, let's switch gears and talk about something a little more in the upbeat vernacular. The Tubes in their 1981 masterpiece, The Completion Backward Principle. This album was their 5th studio album, released in April of 1981. It was their first of the 80s decade, their first for a new record label, and their first successful album, and their first release during the first administration or the first term of Ronald Reagan's 2 terms as President of the United States. The Tubes up to 1981 consisted of lead singer Fee Waybill, guitarist, songwriter Bill Spooner, guitarist Roger Steen, keyboard player Michael Cotton, drummer Prairie Prince, who should be on par with Neil Peart and Phil Collins and Keith Moon and John Bonham as one of the greatest rock drummers in history. How this guy escaped the radar, we'll never know, but the guy is a phenomenon. Then, of course, you have 2 members of the band who are sadly no longer with us. Keyboard player Vince Welnick, who would, after the Tubes' breakup, would join the Grateful Dead. Although he never recorded any albums with them, he did do their final touring cycle from 1990 to 1995. And got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a member of the Grateful Dead. He should have been included if the Tubes had gotten in, he would be in there. But, oh yeah, Rolling Stone did not like this band. I almost forgot. And then he had bass player Rick Anderson, who's also no longer with us. So the Tubes, between 1975 and 1980, released a string of albums, self-titled. As I grab this box set that I have of A&M years, I can tell you which albums they had released. Oh, it's right here. Their self-titled debut, which featured their infamous tracks, Mondo Bondage and White Punks on Dope. Most people just know those 2 from the early days of the band. Then Young and Rich came out in 1976, their second album, which was produced by Ken Scott, who worked with Supertramp and David Bowie, amongst others. The first album was done by Lynyrd Skynyrd producer and Blood, Sweat, and Tears co-founder Al Kooper. And then the third album was 1977's Now, which sold less copies than the first 2. Then a live album called What Do You Want From Live, which was a double live album from the Hammersmith Odeon performances. Excellent live recording. If you haven't heard it, please check that out. And of course, 1979's top 50 charting Todd Rundgren produced Remote Control, which featured the song Primetime, which was one of the early staples of MTV music television. So the band had some modest success. Then the band in 1980, A&M wanted another album, so the band decided to go into the recording studio to record their next album, which would be their first album of the 1980s decade. And they were pretty busy, so they started recording their follow-up album and making their acting debut. Yeah, acting debut. I'll bring that up in just a moment. But first, let's talk about this album that they had intended to record and release in 1980, entitled Suffer for Sound, aka their Black Album. And 5 of these songs have been released as bonus tracks on various different things over the years. And one was not ever released, but was performed live on TV in early 1981 during the early promotion of the tour in support of the album of this episode, Completion Backward Principle. So let's talk about the 4 songs that were recorded for this album that were not used. First, Dreams Come True, which was written by all 7 members of the band. And it's a bonus track on the Remote Control remastered CD that came out a number of years ago on Icon Classic Records. And I can say this, it's a catchy song. I've only heard it just a couple of times, but just enough to give you my honest opinion. I think it's quirky and catchy. That's all I can say. Next is Dangerous, which was not a Who song, and not a cover of the Who song that The Who would do on the It's Hard album in 1982. That was written by John Entwistle, nor that song that Loverboy would do on Lovin' Every Minute of It in 1985 that was written by Bryan Adams, nor that Swedish meatball act Roxette on their 1989 debut, Look Sharp. And I shouldn't disrespect the Dead, but that music was just too poppy and too sanitized, sissified for my liking. But c'est la vie. The Tubes song of that name, which was written by Spooner, Wabel, and Welnick. It was written by, I screwed up. Roger Steen wrote it. And I forgot that the previous track was written by Spooner, Wabel, and Welnick. My fault. I'm allowed to make mistakes on the show because it's warts and all. But Dangerous, great tune, clocking at 3.5 minutes. Excellent tune. Then we have another song called Don't Ask Me, written by Spooner and Steen, the 2 guitar heroes in the band. And this was recorded at the time Billy Joel had Don't Ask Me Why. Don't Ask Me Why sounds like you're in a Mexican cafe, or gling, 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 there we go, a cocktail jazz number. The Tubes, at least, their song called Don't Ask Me was much better. Any day of the week, twice on Sunday. Tubes for the win. And then the last track is Holy War, which is a band original, not a cover of the John Butcher Axis tune. Those of you who don't know who the hell he is, John Butcher Axis was a local guitar hero here in the Boston area, on par with Jimi Hendrix as a rock guitar hero, unfortunately. Like the Tubes, Capitol Records really gave him the shaft during his time because of those hair metal buggers, Poison. That's why I think of Poison. And other hair metal bands. That's why I think of that. I mean, yeah. Holy War, another great tune. Not much backstory on those songs, but I think those songs are excellent, catchy, hooky, and ass-kickingly good. And the next outtake is a song called Drivin All Night, which, if I'm not mistaken, was written by all 5 members of the band here. Let me just grab the CD booklet of their box set here. Yeah, it was written by the band, and the song was, all I can say about the song, which is, as I almost brain fart here, Drivin All Night, was a song that was not released except for a rarities compilation called TUBES, which A&M would release after the band had been dropped from the label and to cash in on the success of the album going to discuss the Completion Backward Principle. And that song is catchy. Then he had one other song which was written during those sessions, but a studio version was recorded but never released, but a live version is available if you watch the Midnight Special in July 1980. And also available if you buy the live recording from Music-Laden, April 1981. The song called Brother, Brother, Don't Slow Down, which begins with a drum shuffle from the drumming of Prairie Prince, the and then D. Fee Waybill going, I got the money in the pocket, and then all the instruments come in, and then Rick Anderson walking on the stage, like literally crawling, playing his bass. I need a fix. And then the band, when they performed it, were dressed in the suits that they would sport on the album that they would record for Capitol and for the video for, Talk to You Later, Let's Make Some Noise. Most of the album, and for the promotional purposes for the album that they would put out in 1981, but Brother, Brother, Don't Slow Down, one of the best rockers that was never released. I don't know why the hell they didn't include on either Suffer for Sound, aka the Black Album that was scrapped, or Completion Backward Principle. And this song, Brother, 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 Don't Slow Down, Don't Slow Down. Oh my goodness. You'd be singing the chorus for days on end. And the differences between the 1980 live version and the 81 version is the white bugs on dope, cowabunga, which they used a vocoder on the 1980 version, but the live version in 81, they just sang that part live, warts and all. But my goodness, the song is just, Brother, Brother, Brothers, Don't Slow Down, Don't Slow Down. Oh my goodness. The song is just so catchy. You'd be singing for days. I think in an alternate reality, it would have been included either on the planned album or the follow-up, and it would have been a massive hit. But I don't know why the song was never released, but it's one of those hidden gems that should have been released. Brother, Brother, Don't Slow Down. Boy, can I not stop singing this tune. And of course, they did the song as a standalone on Midnight Special in July 1980. And then, of course, they did it after the Business Dance, which I'll bring up during the making of the Completion Backward review. So they would go from Business Dance, leaving the stage, and then Prairie Prince running to his drum kit to finish the tape loop part, the bum 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 with a live drum, then go right into Brother, Brother, Don't Slow Down. Man, oh man, the song is killer. And then, of course, we have the fact that the band made their acting debut in between Remote Control and Completion Backward Principle in that infamous roller disco movie, Xanadu. Ugh! Boy, do I hate that movie. Its soundtrack was good, but the movie, oh my goodness. I'm not into roller disco films, folks. The only one I'm into, and I'll do a little rant about roller disco, the only roller disco film I liked was Roller Boogie. But then again, I'm biased because I have a huge crush on Linda Blair. Go figure. I'll do my comparison between Xanadu and Roller Boogie in just a moment. But the Tubes are in that Xanadu movie with Olivia Newton John, who was also a beautiful beauty. It was her second movie after Grease. And the soundtrack she did with ELO was phenomenal. And one of the songs she did in the film was with the Tubes. You'd be like, what? Olivia Newton John and the Tubes did a song together? I go, yep, they most certainly did. It's the same song done in two different styles called Dancin. So it began with this big band 1940s thing, and then all of a sudden goes into the tube section, which is most of the band, with Fee Waybill, the guitar, Spooner, and Steen, and I believe Rick Anderson, and I think Mike Cotton, but Vince Welnick and Prairie Prince do not play on the studio track. You're like, what? Yeah, I read this on Discogs. I'm banned from Wikipedia, so I have to use other sites, folks. But Discogs told me who played on what. So then, watching the scene in preparation for this review, I was like, oh my goodness. The Tubes part was great, to represent 1980s that was filmed in 79, but was foreshadowing the 80s, and the success the band would have. And then Olivia Newton John's section was 1940s. I want to dance with you. Oh my goodness, you're like it's like hearing "Lazy on a Sunday Afternoon" from Queen, or "Seaside Rendezvous," or "Good Company," or "Bring Back That Leroy Brown." But then you're like, oh my goodness, can't sit through this thing. All of a sudden it goes into the ding. Oh my goodness. Wake up, I'm the music, roll on. Oh my god, but I can't sleep. Oh my goodness. Dance with you, baby, dancing with you. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. The section that they did, although they didn't write the song, it was John Farrar who wrote it, but the Tubes parts of it were just, I'm load alone. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. The guitar playing from Steen, the guitar playing from Spooner. Just a killer, and Fee Waybill's vocals are just unbelievable. And and watching the scene, you see the 1940s, and then you see the 1980s with the Tubes doing their crazy thing, especially Mike Cotton fiddling with a synthesizer thing to seduce a chick, and then he had another woman on Prairie Prince's shoulders as he's playing his drum kit, although he didn't play on it, and he had extra keyboards added in from Vince Welnick in the film version, although not in the actual finished product. But my god, I mean, that's probably one of the few highlights of that movie. And then they actually did that on Midnight Special just when the Xanadu soundtrack was released. And yeah, that was one of the the soundtrack was great. I'll give it that. It's a great soundtrack album. Although I don't own it, but ELO did one half, Olivia Newton John did one half, and on her half, the Tubes appear on Dancin as a duet, and then she did a duet with Cliff Richard, the British singer who had success with the Shadows and then his own solo career. And then ELO had their half on side 2, and then of course Olivia Newton John's duet with ELO was Worth the Price of Admission, as well as the Tubes song, which was Dancin, of course. But apart from the soundtrack, the movie was dreaded, horrible, disgusting. Although Olivia Newton John was cute in the movie, may she lay in peace. But that movie, compared to Roller Boogie, was, Roller Boogie's an Oscar winner by comparison in my mind. But then again, I have a crush on Linda Blair, who by 1979 had transformed herself into one beautiful, gorgeous-looking specimen. And her getting out of trouble for her drug bust from 77-78, getting clean, saved her in the end. And her first relationship she wound up with a rock musician sober was Tommy Shaw from Styx, who she met towards the end of the filming cycle of that movie. And she kept Tommy out of trouble for many years, and I'll talk about that in the Cornerstone review in the future. But yeah, and on top of that, her love of equestrian show jumping kept her out of trouble as well. But all I can say is the Tubes were the highlight of Xanadu. The rest of the movie was horrible, although Olivia was cute. And her and Linda Blair were both hot equally in 79-80. Although I was, 4 years old in 79-80. As I got older, I'm like, sheesh, these women are starting to look good to me. Oh, man. Anyway, back to the review. So the Tubes were trying to get everything done. The rejected album, the planned album for A&M, then got rejected by Jerry Moss. And then the band's manager, Ricky Farr, just went up to Jerry Moss and said, Jerry, go fuck yourself. That pissed Moss off that he dropped the band on the spot. So the band were now without a record label. They're like, who are we going to sign to? What are we going to do? We're screwed. We don't have any record labels that are interested in us now. Well, in steps in former Blood, Sweat, and Tears drummer and co-founder Bobby Colomby, who is now an A&R exec at Capitol Records. And Capitol Records gave the band a chance to sign on the condition that they said, we already have enough cult bands and you got to have a hit single or we're not interested. So the band were like, okay, no problem. So the Tubes went producer hunting. Their first choice was Mike Rutherford of Genesis. And you're like, why isn't this on Wikipedia? Well, I read other interviews of the band on other sites, and it turns out that, according to Bill Spooner, Mike Rutherford of Genesis was a huge Tubes fan, and they wanted him to produce the album. Mike almost did, but unfortunately he was busy with a Genesis tour and preparations for the Abacab album, plus I think he had his second child, so touring and producing the Tubes was out of the question, although he wanted to do it. So Mike Rutherford had to decline. Then their second option was Bob Ezrin. Yep, the same Bob Ezrin who had just come off of co-producing Pink Floyd's masterpiece, The Wall, with Roger Waters and David Gilmour. And on his own, Bob Ezrin was a taskmaster, but working with Waters and Gilmour, he was a referee. And in fact, he wound up siding more with Gilmour than the guy that brought him into the project, Waters. That's another story for another day. But Bob Ezrin was also in contention, but Bob Ezrin had a bad drug problem and alcohol problem, plus he was going through a divorce, so his judgment was, to say the least, impaired, so he had to politely decline producing the Tubes album. And then all of a sudden they came across another outside producer, David Foster, who had just had success with Earth, Wind & Fire on the album called I Am, which had After the Thrill Is Gone, Boogie Wonderland, which was in that aforementioned Roller Boogie movie. So yeah, David Foster was a hot shot producer. And the band were like, okay, let's work with David Foster. Let's see how bad it can be. It turned out to be a godsend because David Foster was a taskmaster and a hard-working producer. So the band went into the studio with David Foster and his engineer at the time, Humberto Garcia. I for years said Humberto Garcia, but it's pronounced Humberto Garcia. And the album was recorded at several studios, including Goodnight Studios in Los Angeles, which was a recording studio owned by Keith Olsen, who, of course, worked with Fleetwood Mac, Joe Walsh on The Confessor. In fact, Goodnight Studios was where The Confessor was made in 1985. So it does equate somewhat into an Eagles situation here. Also recorded at Panorama City Studios, Monterey Studios, Glendale Studios, and Davlin Studios in Hollywood. And Davlin Studios was the location where Alan Parsons mixed Al Stewart's Year of the Cat album in 1976 and wound up recording and mixing the 1978 follow-up Time Passages there. So yeah, that studio is also equating into somewhat another Pink Floyd sort of link via Alan Parsons, who was engineer on Dark Side of the Moon and Adam Hart Mother. And of course, produced Al Stewart, of course. And the album was mixed at Studio 55 in Hollywood, California. As I'm looking at this record, the vinyl record here, which has all the credits and all the lyrics and pictures of the band on the back cover. You would have thunk it would have been inside the sleeve, but they pulled a practical joke on us, folks. But I digress. And the concept of this album was for years said on Wikipedia by Fee Waybill, but that turned out not to be the case because it was keyboard player Michael Cotton who came up with the completion backward principle idea. And during that time frame, they took it to an extreme and credited the band members with like they were businessmen. And of course, the idea came from Michael from an obscure Michael Cotton, which was from a record that he owned where a salesman named Stanley Patterson gave a motivational talk, which the band sampled for the album's intro. And according to Fee Waybill, quote, the idea is that you picture the sale being made and work backwards from there. Somehow that was supposed to help you sell more vacuum cleaners. And then Roger Steen, and then of course Fee Waybill said, quote, we thought that was hilarious and it did tie into the start of corporate rock. Yeah, the term that Rolling Stone abused towards bands like Journey and Styx and REO Speedwagon and, what do you call it? Boston. Bands that were not anointed by the critics, but the fans loved them. Critics then liked crap like Elvis Costello. Same critics hated Pink Floyd. Same critics hated Rush. And where are those bands now? Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, baby. And Rush and Pink Floyd didn't need their image to sell records. In fact, those two bands didn't get interviewed by Rolling Stone until years into their career, like 20 years plus and 40 years plus, respectively. But I digress. And then Roger Steen added, quote, "We're always into counterculture humor, and this was no exception, but in one sense our band really did become a corporation with this album." And my intro to this album was by the opening track, which I'll talk about in a moment, Talk to You Later, which I heard on the radio a lot when I was a 5-year-old kid, a 5-year-old boy, little 5-year-old boy hearing it on rock radio, because that's pretty much what was played in the house. It was either top 40 or album rock. Mostly album rock via my sisters, and the song was always played on the radio. And I was like, this sounds like a killer tune. Yeah, and I was a fan of it, because I was a rock and roller from the time I think I was like 4 or 5 years old. I was listening to rock and roll music. And this is no lie either, folks. And then saw the video on MTV once I got cable. It was the second Tubes video I saw after She's a Beauty, of course. And yeah, the song Talk to You Later was the first thing I heard from the album. Then I would hear I Don't Want to Wait Anymore over a quarter century later on VH1 Classic. And I was like, oh, this is different, but I liked it nevertheless. And then during lockdown, I was like, well, I've always wanted to give this band a try, so let's buy the album. So I figured I'd start with Completion Backward Principle, based on those two songs alone. The gamble paid off, because this album has opened my eyes to the Tubes. And this is actually this was the first Tubes album I ever owned, and then I also got Outside Inside, the follow-up. And now I have just about the entire catalog, except for the final studio album with the original lineup, which I'll have to Love Bomb, which I'll have to find on cassette or vinyl to do a transfer to CD, because that album's been long out of print for years. And pretty much disowned. But I'm like, how bad can it be? But nevertheless, this album I already own 5 copies and counting. I think this is going to be like my In Through the Outdoor obsession, just like my buddy JCM Led Zeppelin Stories, who now has, as of this recording, 62 copies of In Through the Outdoor from Led Zeppelin. So those who don't like In Through the Outdoor or this album, you need to have your ears cleaned and your head examined. Because how can anyone hate this band? Or this album? It's impossible. But what else can I say? But let's talk about the album and the songs that go along with it. So let's begin the review right this second. We begin with the first single from the album in the whole wide world, Talk to You Later. This hard rock and ditty was written by, although it says the band and David Foster and Steve Lukather of Toto, it was really Steve Lukather of Toto, David Foster, and Fee Waybill. That's what it should read. But the band got credit. And what happened was, the band one day were not in the studio, and this was actually one of the last songs recorded for the album, and David Foster and Fee Waybill gave the band a day off and booked a one-off recording session keeping drummer Prairie Prince in the studio and calling in Steve Lukather, co-founder of Toto, and Steve Lukather came up with the guitar riff in the music for Talk to You Later. And Fee Waybill borrowed a catchphrase from studio engineer Humberto Gazzia. We all thought we were technical geniuses and you never want to hear about our engineering suggestions, so he'd just say, talk to you later, man, which was basically his way of saying F off. In the guitar riff, he'd be singing for days on end, dun, 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 basically telling a chick to, they had a one-night stand with and he wound up dating with, basically to go to hell. The lyrics, I met her on a strip, it was another lost weekend, the band was too slick, and the people were twisted, so I asked her for a date, she reluctantly agreed, then we went to my place, and she never did leave, and then the choruses, which were sung by Bill Champlin, future Chicago singer, and some other guy, I forgot his name, singing the harmonies of, she won't miss me when she's gone, and that's okay with me, I'll cry later on. Then the next verse, it's been 6 months, she hasn't shut up once, I've tried to explain, she's driving me insane, she won't even... Then a repeat of the pre-chorus. Then the chorus should be singing, talk to you later, don't want to hear it again tonight. Talk to you later, just save it for another guy. Talk to you later, don't want to hear it again tonight. I'll just see you around. Sorry if I'm singing, but it's so damn catchy. The next verse, get out, I'm telling you now, do you catch my drift? What could be plainer than this? Nothing more to be said, write me a letter instead. I don't mean to be cruel, but I'm finished with you. Oh my goodness. And this song just featured Steve Lukather on guitars and bass guitar, Prairie Prince on drums, Fee Waybill on lead and backing vocals, along with Bill Champlin, future Chicago member, and David Foster on synthesizers and keyboards. Repeat of the chorus, then the keyboard solo, Steve Lukather doing an excellent bass riff, boom, 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 boom. And then a repeat of the chorus, then that batty guitar solo from Steve Lukather, which I thought was Roger Steen for years, but he was just trying to imitate Steve Lukather. I mean, Lukather could shred like Neil Schon of Journey, Eddie Van Halen. He was obviously friends with the two, so obviously they had an influence on him. And then after he hits that final high note, Fee Waybill sings the final talk to you later, don't want to hear it again tonight, talk to you later, just save it for another guy, and then it ends with the band just going to town and ending with that big finish. And the song did not chart on the Billboard Hot 100, but by then there was a new invention called the Billboard Album Rock Tracks chart. And that was a different story because the song on Album Rock Tracks chart went all the way to number 7, which was the first real big rock radio hit for the band. So they were finally getting album rock radio play, and Capitol Records ensured that. In the video, which depicted the band doing a press conference with reporters, which was shot for their home video, the Tubes video, depicted the band wearing businessman suits, 3-piece suits, the sport coat, the shirts, the ties, the shoes, giving this press conference, and then Fee Waybill taking the microphone, leaping on the press statement thing and just singing, telling the press basically to singing the lyrics, and the band trying to avoid scandal. This was in the early days of the Reagan administration. This was 1981, of course. But the song is just so catchy and killer, you'd be singing for days on end. And in fact, like I said, the video was directed by Russell Mulcahy, who would go on to direct videos for the likes of Kim Carnes, Rod Stewart, The Motels, Billy Joel, Supertramp, Queen, Duran Duran. That was his biggest cash cow for videos. And the movie Highlander, amongst other films. So Russell Mulcahy was an up-and-coming video director, and he delivered his promise with the video for this track. And one of the earliest videos on MTV you would be seeing for days on end. And the song was also used on an episode of WKRP where Venus Flytrap and Dr. Johnny Fever were actually doing a broadcast from an old rundown radio station as a backup surrogate radio station. Oh man, you won't get songs on shows like that anymore. But Talk to You Later, killer rockin' tune. In an alternate reality, it would have been a top 40 hit, but still album rock radio played it, so I can't really complain. And MTV used to play this video ad nauseum, meaning a lot. And Talk to You Later, killer rockin' tune, not much more to add to it. And the band was basically now up and running with success with this song. And the song still remains an excellent track. And apparently guitarist Bill Spooner, who'd been the main songwriter in the band up to that point, had a tough time with this new regime. And they began having doubts after the Talk to You Later session. And no doubt the song did us a lot of good, but he was kind of under pressure to deliver a hit. But then it caused some unrest within the members of the band, having outside writers co-write that tune. But in the grand scheme of it all, it gave the Tubes new fans, especially people like me who loved the tune and just found it kick-ass and would set up more success with the next record. Talk to You Later, great rocker. Great way to open this album. Now we get to a song called Sushi Girl, which is about a girl he meets at a sushi bar, which begins with that piano and synthesizer riff by Vince Welnick and Michael, I keep forgetting the dude's name, just bear with me, Michael Cotton, into this bum bum, do 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 And this song was played live on the subsequent tour. It was written by the members of the band, no outside writers. And Fee Waybill's lyrics, skating down in Shinjuku when I smelled love in the air, rolling by the pagoda, the fragrance floats from somewhere. Will my Suki find me in time, or will his sushi spawn? The odor drives me out of my mind. The scent goes straight to my prawn. Sushi, mushe, cherry blossoms and rice. Sushi, see she's so nice. The next verse, recklessly I order away. The one thinks it's still swimming. Tail and fin she dives right in. Who could ever want more? And then a repeat of the chorus. Sushi, don't you cry. Take it to the sushi bar and buy some fillet and claw, clam and tuna. Gonna eat it raw. She's my abalone. Suck a tentacle, dip it in sauce. Hot green root. Sure as boss, the only vice is to slice it nice, wrap it in rice. What a device. Repeat of the chorus. Oh man, when they did this song live, Fee Waybill would be dressed up like a scuba diver, and one of the dancers dressed like a piece of raw fish or an octopus, whatever you want to call it, a tentacle-looking thing. If you saw the footage, which I'm playing the video footage from the performance on the Tomorrow Show, and he had females and two other female dancers singing in mud, a little mini kiddie pool of mud. And one of the dancers on that tour and on the video footage was Cynthia Rhodes, who would go on to have a bit role in Flashdance and then co-star with John Travolta in Staying Alive, the Saturday Night Fever sequel directed by Sylvester Stallone. Runaway with Gene Simmons and Tom Selleck. She was also a cutie. And then eventually retired from acting and dancing to be a mother to 3 sons with the 80s hellspawn known as Richard Marx, who does equate in the Tube story later in the future. But that's a story for another day. But yeah, Sushi Girl, great up-tempo ditty. I think it's funny. The lyrics are hilarious. The song's great. The performances were phenomenal. Killer tune. Wish it was a bigger hit, but you couldn't have funny songs as hit singles, I think. Unless you were Weird Al Yankovic doing parodies, but so be it. But Sushi Girl, great tune. Now we come to another track called Amnesia, which is written by the band and producer David Foster. Or is it Amnesia? Or you could say Amnesia, which is problem in the knees, but amnesia is loss of memory. And this song, Fee Waybill sings, it seems we stood and talked like this before. Why can't I remember? Did we share something more? I must have loved you once upon a time. Amnesia's come and clouded my mind. And then the band comes in. Was there a fire burning, or were there tears? Did I ever whisper words of love in your ear? I can't go on not knowing my own name. I only have this curse of love to blame. And then the chorus. What have I done to deserve this? Can't find my love if I can't find myself. I'm imprisoned by amnesia and I can't break the spell. Oh my goodness. You'd be singing it for days. The love of days gone past is haunting me. Your face so familiar. Who can you be? This is the price that I have to pay. That's why I cry out for yesterday. Then a repeat of the chorus. But a brilliant song. And yeah, a video was filmed for that aforementioned promotional film where Fee Waybill was standing on the ledge of a building in the video about to jump. And then falls and gets swarmed by the dancers, which is quite cool. And the band did play this on the actual subsequent tour in support of the album. But a great song nevertheless, Amnesia is. In fact, it was the first of 2 songs with that song title released in 1981. The other was by the Canadian progressive rock band Saga on their breakout album, Worlds Apart, which did not see an American release until 1982. But Amnesia, the Tubes tune of the same title, killer, catchy, hooky, you'd be singing for days on end. Just a great song. And Yeah, it was played live in the live version. In the song, it was extended to like 5 minutes and 16 seconds. But a killer tune, nevertheless. Now we get to the next track, which was written by, if I read this darn thing, the members of the band without any contribution of David Foster, Mr. Hate. Boy, do I have something about Mr. Hate. I love Mr. Hate. In fact, Mr. Hate is the man. Now I'll tell you about the story about the song. The song was based on a true story and of a fugitive who was accused, unjustly it seemed, of killing his mother. He went on the lam in some increasingly outrageous letters to the San Francisco Chronicle. And the band thought about Mr. Hate. Quote, we thought he was this great cult figure and anti-hero, and we stole a lot of his letters and put them on the lyrics. Then after the album came out, we found out that he was completely guilty. Little did the band know. But hey, it's rock and roll, and rock and roll is supposed to be about anti-heroes and things. This is before Taylor Swift wrote about anti-heroes. Her anti-hero was crap. This is the real anti-hero, Mr. Hate. God bless him. The lyrics. I must admit I was a bit confused. I saw my picture in the morning news. You say my sister dead, my mom is too. You say I killed him, but it's just not true. Nothing's real, nothing's certain. When I read your words, I just start hurting. Everybody's trying to convict me for taking Benadryl and LSD, and that's all ancient history, and it's just between God and me. I hate rock and roll. Don't smoke pot, maybe a drunk, but a user. I'm not in the chorus. This is a warning from my own hand. Never corner a frightened man. I may kill somebody trying to escape. You better listen to Mr. Hate. Do 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 do. You'd be singing the guitar riff for days on end. I can't believe the things my school friends said. Sometimes I think I wish that they were dead. I get so mad that I just see red. Something blows apart inside my head. It's erroneous information. I gotta make a little clarification. And then a repeat of the chorus. It goes into the da 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 boom. Apparently on the BGO remaster, that little bit of music is extended. But the version on the Capitol one, which is the US version of the album, which luckily I have, and the Japanese press of the US version, is the way it's normally done. And then you hear Fee Waybill basically acting out the part of Mr. Hate saying, "You're not going to take me alive!" and holding the hostage. And the video for that is on the home video and in the live performance from Germany in April 1981. He held one of the dancers. I think it was, I don't think it was Cheryl, the Japanese lady. It wasn't Cynthia Rhodes. It was the other one. Held her at knife point and fake gun point and was about to kill. And in the video, the band performs the song, and then Fee Waybill plays Mr. Hate, about to be taken alive, go kill somebody, and then the members of the band, dressed in the three-piece suits to represent them on the album, grab Mr. Hate and haul him off into the middle of nowhere. Oh my goodness. The song, the video, awesome, catchy. You'd be singing it for days on end. Mr. Hate, I love to love. And that's all I'm going to say about Mr. Hate is I love Mr. Hate. Now we come to the end of side 1 of the album with a song called Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, which is the last song on side 1 of the album. And it begins with, "It was a normal day with my girlfriend Sue, blonde hair, blue eyes, and 5'2". The night was cold, the stars were bright. From over her shoulder came a strange light. We parked the car at 3 Mile Point. Top was down, we were really going. I heard her cry as the reactor flared. She grew and grew. I freaked and stared. Attack the 50-foot woman. Attack. Our love was at an end. All she did to get her kicks was step on a man." Oh my goodness. I had to run just to save my skin. She scooped me up. I could not win. My God, I screamed for my mistress. Got a 50-foot woman in a 5-foot dress. Attack the 50-foot woman. Attack. Our love was at an end. All she did to get her kicks was step on all the men. Oh my goodness.
and the whole solo section, which was catchy and hooky. And then the final verse, the National Guard couldn't shoot her down. Before she left, she really trashed our town. She left me there, though I tried and tried. A 50-foot woman's never satisfied. And then I repeated the chorus, and then the band singing Attack of the 50-Foot Woman as the song fades out. And the song maintained their love for grade Z sexploitation movies. Oh my goodness. As did Sushi Girl. And they did play the song live. No promotional video for it, but a live performance was from that live music-laden video, which you can see on YouTube. And the performance was killer, awesome, kick-ass. And then after the song, they went right into the song Smoke, which came from their third album. I forgot the title of it. But yeah, the song was played live on the subsequent tour in support of the Completion Backward Principle. I don't know if they played on the Outside Inside tour, but we do know they played this song on the actual tour in support of Completion Backward Principle. Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, great tune, not much more I can add. Once you are done with side one of the Completion Backward Principle, which featured Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, which is a catchy ditty, especially with the harmony choruses that reminds one of Earth, Wind, and Fire. All I could think of is Philip Bailey singing with his testicles removed, and Maurice White, may he lay in pieces, the baritone of the group. We now go to something a little more new wave-ish, which begins side 2, which is the song Think About Me, which was written by the members of the band. And the song has a synthesizer arpeggiating thing done by the one and only Michael Cotton, who's credited as Trend on the album. Bill Spooner is credited as Analysis. Motivation, credited to Fee Waybill. Development, Roger Steen, the guitarist. Systems, the drummer, Prairie Prince. Accountant, Vince Welnick. And policy, Rick Anderson. And those 7 cats come up with the next track, which is the new wave, fast-influenced Think About Me, which is that programmed track, and it's written by all 7 members of the band. It's that synthesizer thing, which was predominantly used. They played it live, but then sometimes they didn't. And the lyrics go, passing in the street, to total strangers meet, keep it short and sweet. No obligations, you belong to me temporarily. You're a memory, I gotta face it. And then the chorus goes into C sharp minor. Will you remember to think about me? Think about me. Then back to the G chord. Got no time to rest. Can't even catch my breath. Now that the moment's past, it's just tomorrow. No time to look back to the love affair we had. I knew it wouldn't last. I gotta go now. And then to the back end of the chorus. A repeat of the chorus. And then I know you'll never call or write me little notes or take your shirts to clean. You'll forget about me. Think about me. And then the last verse. We will hit or miss. Get the feelings when we kiss. Lovers leap like this. It's now or never. Maybe we'll meet again, or maybe we'll just pretend that's how it's always been. Love's not forever. Then repeat of the chorus. And then Prairie Prince does a drum fill that you're just like, sheesh, why isn't that guy held in the same league as Neil Peart or Phil Collins or any of those guys? But yeah, the song is a great 3+ minute ditty. Very motivatingly speaking, and the song was not released as a single. Should have been. I think it was a B-side. If there is a photo of the 45, it's on here. The YouTube version, that is. But Think About Me, when I think about the song, it brings a smile to my face. And sorry, folks, I'm just getting over a sinus infection as I recorded this review. That's why I've been coughing here. But Think About Me, I think about the song and how much it puts a smile on my face. That's how much I love Think About Me. Next track is a song called A Matter of Pride, which was the opening track on many of the shows of the Completion Backward Principle tour, which begins with a key pattern in the key of E with some C sharp minor thrown in, which is the relative key to E, and Fee Waybill singing in the quasi falsetto, hey baby, you don't care,
You don't share, you won't make believe. You won't tell me things I gotta know. I gotta know I want it now. Don't you understand? And then, of course, when you love somebody, when you look into her eyes, when you love somebody, you must have pride. Da-da-da. Da-da-da. And then the high-pitched chorus is, you say you love me, but you know it's a lie. I like to trust you, baby. It's a matter of pride. Hey, baby, I just can't take it. You make me mad. Tell me how you really feel. I want to know bad. And then a repeat of the chorus. And then during the bridge section, which is, call me, baby. Call me on the telephone. Tell me, baby, that you want me home. Give me a minute. I'll be there right away. Tell me, baby, are those the right words to say? Oh, my goodness. I gotta find out if this love is really real. Don't kid me, baby. I gotta know how you feel. I want to wind up in the right place with you. I gotta find out if it's up for me. You do what you do. Then a repeat of the chorus. Just showing you that the band had completely went from songs called White Punks on Dope and Smoke in Primetime on the previous album to something more accessible and catchy and hooky, which the band had to change in order to survive the decade of the 1980s. It was a new decade. The song was great, and I believe the song had the handwriting of, it was actually the band who wrote it. David Foster did not co-write it, so it was just the band who wrote this track. A funky little up-tempo ditty. Only thing missing would be probably a horn section, but, this is an Earth, Wind, and Fire. This is the Tubes. And this song is excellent. Not much more to add to, as I stutter here, A Matter of Pride. But the song is a source of joy in my equation. A Matter of Pride for the win. Now we get to the big hit single off the album. And probably my favorite power ballad of all time. Shove that in your trophy, Aerosmith. A song called Don't Want to Wait Anymore, written by the band and David Foster, and sung by guitarist Bill Spooner, who was the sound of the band. And he was the man who wrote most of the classics. In the beginning piano thing, you're thinking, God, did they rip off Supertramp's Breakfast in America? But then again, those morons have no doubt ripped off the intro to this, the doo-doo-doo-doo, the C minor thing. That the only similarities between those three is the intro, the da-da-da. But at least Bill Spooner doesn't sing like Baby Bop, and he doesn't sound like Roger Hodgson either. And Bill Spooner singing the ballad about a love affair in space, which were two strangers left on the planet and having to make love to survive, and the protagonist doesn't want to wait to make love. And, of course, the video, which was shot for the song I'll talk about in just a moment, but the track, the lyrics. We could be the last two on Earth to start a new world, just you and me, girl. Try and you can almost see how it could be, just you and me. And then the drums kick in, lost, trapped in the freezing cold, barely alive, we'd have to make love to survive. I'll show you how it's done. We'll take it as it comes, a rocket to the sun. Metaphor for wanting to get laid to you, babe. And then the chorus, I don't want to wait anymore. I just don't think I have the strength to carry on. I don't want to wait anymore. I've waited so long, forgot what I'm waiting for. And then the guitar solo comes in, and I think you're like, yeah, this does sound a bit like something David Gilmour would play. Yeah, it does give me kind of a quasi-comfortably numb first solo vibe. Very short and plain, but done brilliantly by Bill Spooner, who's doing the guitar solo. And on the studio version, it's just one solo, but live, there would be an additional solo. I'll bring up the live version after I'm done with the actual track here. The next verse, stranded on a desert isle with no one around for thousands of miles. The miles higher pitch was sung by Vince Welnick and Fee Waybill. Imagine any place if this is what it takes, but don't tell me to wait. Then a repeat of the chorus. And it ends with, that part ends with Bill Spooner going, I can't get my voice that high. And then it goes into a thing where it changes keys, because the chorus was mainly in A flat. It goes into this section which is in C sharp, and then it goes to a whole step higher to E flat, or D sharp, and then into E or F, and then ending in the key of B flat. the final chorus, Don't Want to Wait Anymore. And then Bill Spooner channeling in his inner Bill Champlin, who of course would go on to sing with Chicago. People thought it was Bill Champlin who actually sings the track, because Bill Spooner and Bill Champlin had similar vocal textures and similar voices. But Bill Champlin does the backing vocals on this track. That's not him on the lead vocal, it's Bill Spooner, the guitarist, songwriter of the band. Then with Bill Spooner screaming his ass off at the very end, brilliantly. In the live version, Vince Welnick would sing the high falsetto, and then for most performances, except for the Tomorrow Show in '81 with Tom Snyder, Fee Waybill would be singing his parts off stage. But on the Tomorrow Show, he was singing on stage with the band playing rhythm guitar. And then in the live version, Bill Spooner does an ending guitar solo, which he just shows that he can play excellent lead guitar. I mean, Roger Steen was the main lead guitarist, but Bill Spooner is a phenomenal guitarist. And his soloing on this track is just amazing. In the video, which was directed by Russell Mulcahy, which was released on the Tubes home video, which had most of the songs from this album except for Is Noted, Bill Spooner was standing in a puddle in a thing of water in his three-piece suit. You think maybe Phil Collins nicked that idea for Against All Odds, folks? You be the judge. But he's standing there with his guitar, and then he goes up a flight of stairs after he sings it, and then not using his actual guitar, but using a facsimile of his guitar, throws it into the water, and then you see the dancers dive in to retrieve the guitar, because he wouldn't throw his actual white Gibson Explorer he used with the Bigsby tremolo, because that would have been damaged. And then him singing with rain coming down, screaming his ass off. And then in the live versions, he would just be standing there with his guitar, dressed in the three-piece suit, looking up at the sky like, is it going to rain? And on the live performance from Germany, which was done earlier in the year, early in the album's touring cycle on Music Laden, he was wearing red pants, sneakers, and a blue t-shirt, looking like a, typical Tubes thing before they started wearing the three-piece suits for the latter part of the show. Looking up at the sky, and then you're seeing Vince Welnick singing the high end, Bill Spooner doing the ending guitar solo, which he just goes completely to town. And then, of course, the Tomorrow Show, they're all dressed in the three-piece suits like you see on the album sleeve in most of the videos, performing it on late night television. And the song, I don't know how many times I've heard it in the last 18 years since I first heard this, because I was a late comer to this track, but probably the greatest power ballad that should have been the biggest hit of all time. I don't know how the hell songs like Every Rose Has Its Thorn, or Love Bites, or whatever the hell that other ballad's called, Dream On, yeah, or any of those pricks, Steelheart, or whatever you call it. No wonder Nirvana came along, because the Tubes did what those bastards did, but did it better. In fact, the Tubes, the best power ballads of all time, I Don't Want to Wait Anymore by the Tubes, that's one of my favorites. Waiting for a Girl Like You by Foreigner, yep. Babe and First Time by Styx, yep, you heard me right, folks. I do love both ballads, and yeah, First Time was a power ballad. Not Barry Manilow, but power ballad, and this song was power ballad as well, with the big chorus, the epic guitar solo, and then live you'd have an ending guitar solo, kitchen sink ending in the live performance. But this song should have been a bigger hit. It was the first top 40 hit for the band, peaking at number 35 on the Billboard singles chart in the summer of '81. This was actually, I think it was either the first or second single from the album. In Europe, Talk to You Later was first. I think Talk to You Later was released first. And then Don't Want to Wait Anymore was released second, and it caused the album sales to creep up a little bit. But Don't Want to Wait Anymore, no matter how many times I've heard this song in the last few years, I hear it now almost every day, and I don't get tired of it because it's just so awesome and epic. It's probably my favorite Tubes song, and this is on my favorite Tubes album. I mean, that and the opening Talk to You Later are contenders for favorite song in the album thus far, although the other songs are great, and Mr. Hate is up there. But Don't Want to Wait Anymore should have been a bigger hit, but it's a hit in my equation. Best ballad they ever did, and greatest power ballad of all time, as far as I'm concerned. And if they don't like it, Sue me. Now we get to a hard rocker called Power Tools, which was written by the members of the band. And this track is a great up-tempo rocker with an excellent bass guitar riff by Rick Anderson, the bum 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 bum, and the nice rhythm guitar fills of Bill Spooner, and the Power Tools. Power to lie, power to buy, I got my edges sharp, I'm gonna find a mark. Nobody better ask me why, I only know I'm gonna try. And then the chorus. Power Tools, damn, with the slide guitar played by Roger Steen. Power Tools, power, I can't lose in my head. Oh my goodness, I can't lose in my head. Power. It's all part of the plan of the ambitious man. I'll do whatever I can, just so you'll understand. First I'll even up the score, da-da-da-da, with the harmony guitars done by Steen and Spooner. Then I'll lead them wanting more than a repeating of the chorus. Power Tools, oh my goodness. And then of course the bridge. Standing by the window, da-da-da-da, seems to so real to me, da-da-da-da. Buy yourself some power, da-da-da-da, to make it in the street. Some people buy powder, some people buy booze, some people use a chainsaw. Which tool is right for you? And my goodness, and then Roger Steen does the slide guitar solo. It sounds like it could have been nicked from any Joe Walsh recording with the Eagles. I mean, his slide guitar playing on this track is very Bottleneck-like, but done brilliantly, as Bill Spooner is doing the rhythm guitar on this track. And during the live performance of this song, which he did on the subsequent tour, Roger Steen climbed up to a platform to play the slide guitar as the rest of the band was on stage in their normal outfits before they put on the businessman suit, except for Fee Waybill, who was already prepared because he was in the businessman suit, because the next track in the show would be a song that was not recorded, intended for the album, but was not used. David Foster, I'm looking at you. But back to the track Power Tools. After the slide guitar solo, the guitar fill from Bill Spooner comes back in, and it goes, change the storyline just to schedule my time. I got things to use to cut me a groove, making it high and wide, planning on a brand new style. And then the repeat of the chorus, Power Tools, with another slide guitar fill done by Roger Steen as Fee Waybill's singing the counter vocals to Spooner and Welnick. Power Tools, oh my goodness, Power Tools, oh my goodness. And it ends with the power, done fewer times on the record, but live on the 1981 tour in support of the completion backward principle. Watch Music Lead in Germany 81, you know what I'm talking about, it's on YouTube. They keep doing the power as Fee Waybill transitioned from standing on stage to the podium to be like making fun of the press conferences wearing the three-piece suit, as the rest of the band would leave the stage to put on their three-piece suits, which they would wear for the rest of the show. Beginning with a song that was not on the album, but I'll tell you what song that will be when I'm done with the review. But Power Tools, great rockin' tune. Should have been played more on album rock radio, and there should have been a video for it, but never mind. At least they played it live, it's all that matters. Great track, not much more to add. Before you go into the last track, Terrence, you forgot to mention on Power Tools, if you have the vinyl record, if you have the CD, the song ends with just the ringing E chord, just fading into the distance. But on the vinyl record of the completion backward principle, or in the original cassette, and I think the original 8-track as well, has this ending. The song ends, and then you have a reprise of the outro of Amnesia. So you're like, what the hell? Because I didn't know this until I played the record in preparation for this review. I was like, so I played the CD, and I was used to the ending with that power chord just fading into the distance. All of a sudden, on the record, it's the chord's going, then all of a sudden, a drum comes in, and you hear an edit of dun dun, the ending of Amnesia. You're like, what the heck? Oh my goodness, I don't know if it was a mastering error or whatever, but on record, cassette, and 8-track pressings of the completion backward principle, you have an alternate ending to Power Tools. Whereas on the CD, the ending is corrected, but on the original vinyl, cassette, and 8-track, the ending was I don't know, the ending was altered with the ending of Amnesia. Oh my goodness. I haven't heard the Capitol Records CD yet, so the jury, I think it may have been fixed for the Capitol CD, but I'll be on the hunt for a copy on Capitol on CD, because this is becoming an In Through the Outdoor obsession with yours truly. And The Wall from Pink Floyd, or any Pink Floyd album I should say, because they all had different cover art variations. But c'est la vie. Power Tools, great tune, not much more I can add. And now we come to the end of the album with a song called Let's Make Some Noise, which was written by the band and David Foster. And it begins in the key of D, and then it, predominantly is in the key of D. And the verse is in A minor, E minor, and D. There you sit waiting for someone, but is that a perfect stranger gonna come? It's a lonely world out there when you're all alone. And then the chorus, let's make some noise. Let's make some noise tonight. Let's make some noise. Oh my goodness. And then to the next verse, cut through your walls. Don't act so dumb. We ain't gonna quit. We ain't gonna, till we have some fun. You and I can make that part scene. Oh my goodness. Let's make some noise. And then, it keeps going in the late. Let's make some noise. The chorus is in C sharp minor, alternating with A flat minor. And then the band just, or it's a C sharp minor, F sharp minor. Excuse me, I got the two chords confused. And then the band does the chanting, let's make some noise, let's make some noise, let's make some noise, like a cheerleading chant, which then brings the band back in, and it changed the chords from C sharp minor to E flat minor. A curveball thrown in by the band, as the band singing the last part of the song. And the song is the last song in the album, and also the penultimate song on the home video. And it was actually the penultimate song played live, because it was another instrumental that was done for the concert video that was not released in the album. And Let's Make Some Noise makes a lot of noise, and it kicks ass. That's all I'm going to say about that track. And then when Let's Make Some Noise was on the home video and live versions, it went into a instrumental that was not on a Tubes album called the Weebee Dance, which I think is a extension of Let's Make Some Noise, which takes the Let's Make Some Noise and then changes the key to E minor with A minor modulation to throw in. And it was done to strip Fee Waybill down to make him look like a voodoo, one of those voodoo type of witch doctors. That's the thing. But a great instrumental is the band still playing in their three-piece suits, and you can see performance of that on the on the live music laden performance. It's not credited on the live CD, but that dance was a great instrumental, and on top of that, the song was credited as the as I read this thing, Weebee Dance is also exclusively audio-wise on the home video for what's that? Oh yeah, the Tubes video that came out in late 81, early 82, where they filmed a number of videos for this album, and Let's Make Some Noise was given that ending, and then of course they played that ending live on the night, the performance from German television music laden in April of 81. And what a great tune, way to end the album. But there was some other songs that were recorded for the album but was not used. I'll tell you which songs they are. First is Sports Fans, which was intended for the album, but David Foster did not like the lyrics. So the song laid idle until the band decided to release it as a standalone single with some rewritten lyrics. Because on the single, they say, how about those Bengals, those Niners, and the Giants, those Niners, referencing the band San Francisco thing, plus the Super Bowl that was happening at the time in January of 82. Although the original lyrics were, how about those Tigers, how about those Jets, and then the drumming from Prairie Prince, of course, in the pocket. And the video for this was on that aforementioned home video, but the original version of the song with the original lyrics you can only find on the home video.
and the live in Germany audio from Musical.ly, because the version that's on the single was not on the single, was recorded later. Actually, the lyrics were re-recorded, but the original you can only get on the home video and the live performance. But the song is perfect. Sports fans, oh my goodness. If I had heard this song back when I was in high school or junior high or elementary, I would have been singing it. But unfortunately, it was not on an album. Now I know why, because David Foster said, "Oh, this song is crap." I guess he forgot the band's wacky sense of humor. I think, especially with the cheerleaders on stage. Give me a T. Oh my goodness. And Prairie Prince's drum riser would move to the front of the stage as he's playing. A move that also drummers like Peter Criss of Kiss, John Bonham of Led Zeppelin, John Panazzo of Styx, they all had their drum risers move to the front of the stage where they did the, drum solo spots for their concerts, in 77, 78, 79, and then he did it in 81. And what a great tune. Anything else to add to sports fans? No, but I think a phenomenal tune. And that's all I can say about that. And then you have a few other tracks that didn't make the album. One of which was the song called The Business, which incorporates a thing called Tube Talk, which I'll grab the Tube Talk thing. Hang on just 1 second. Oops, as I grab the CD here. I'll have to look for the Tube Talk. Here we are. Tube Talk's words. This is it, America. Say hello to a new way of listening. Listen to what you've been waiting for, or watch what you've been waiting for. You asked for something new, and we heard you loud and clear. Because when you talk, tubes listen. This is who we are and what we do. The Tubes Group. We're music people. People like you. 7 individuals, 1 purpose. Diverse talents, carefully blended. What do? We do it all, from the raw materials to the finished product in millions of homes like yours. 24 hours a day, every day of the year. We'll be doing it for you. It's not easy, America, or Germany, or whatever city, but with your help, we're getting the job done. This is your day, America. Now, it's your turn to everything we have to offer. America, you're number one. We're number one. You work hard and you play hard. You like the feeling of being all you can be. You deserve the best there is, and we give it to you, so why not reach out and grab all you can get? America, you've earned it. This is how we feel, America. If you have a need, we'll fix it. Give us a problem, we'll solve it. If there's a question, we'll find the answer. It's that simple, America. You're changing, and we're changing with you. It's time to say hello to us, the Tubes Group. We're here because you're there. Into this track called The Business Dance, where the 7 members of the band are wearing matching 3-piece suits and go to the microphones, poking fun at the R&B groups, but it's actually just synthesizers played by Michael Cotton and Vince Welnick doing the keyboard stuff, with Prairie Prince playing drums like a drum machine. And then they're singing, "We're in business for ourselves, ain't gonna work for nobody else. Mr. Executive, you're at the top. You better look out now, because here it comes. Work, work, work. We mean business. We're the boss. All you people better work for us. Here come the businessman. We play to win. Nothing can stop us." And then the members of the band sing different lines. First, Michael Cotton goes, "White collar people," and then Vince Welnick, "With button down minds," and then Fee Waybill, "Status seekers," or as I say, status seekers. And then on the original recording, it was someone else's voice going, "Ambitious guys," and then Prairie Prince in live performance would go, "Ambitious guys," and then another voice doing "Gonna start at the bottom." Live versions, Bill Spooner would scream it either as "Gonna start at the bottom," or "Gonna start at the bottom." Oh my goodness. And then in Rick Anderson's part, "And move on up," instead of it going, "And move on up," I can't get my voice out. He would go, "And move on up," and then Roger Steen doing, "It won't be easy, yeah, but work we must. Work, 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 we're in business." Oh my goodness. And then they're doing the business dance. And then Fee Waybill yells, "Taxi!" And then they waltz off the stage in darkness. And then Prairie Prince runs to his drum kit to begin the next track, which would be either "Talk to You Later" or Brother, Brother, Don't Slow Down, which was the recording from 1980. So he would just play the drum part of the drum machine live, and then to the next track, where as the band would go to their instruments to play Brother, Brother, Don't Slow Down. And this song was played live on every show of the Completion Backward Principle tour, and was also the opening song on shows for the Outside Inside tour as well. Most performances had all 7 members of the band in the suits, but for one performance, because Bill Spooner injured his knee, his guitar tech had to fill in for him, because he had to go on stage not having to switch into another costume, so he just wore what he wore for the show that was filmed. But what a great tune Business Dance is. A studio version does appear on the Completion Backward Principle home video, and that instrumental backing track was used on every live performance. And for some later performances, they were lip-syncing the white-collar people with the button-down minds. Status seekers, ambitious guys, gonna start at the bottom and move on up. It won't be easy, yeah, but work we must. That would be lip-synced later, but in 81, they sang it live. I don't know why, but I think it's better when they were singing those parts live. Kind of poking fun of those singing groups, but my goodness, Business Dance should have been included as a bonus track on the reissued CD, but never mind. And that's all I'm going to say about the Business Dance. Great tune and a great way to sort of... And yeah, they did do this live on the Tomorrow Show with Tom Snyder as the last song of the episode in summer of '81 while promoting this album. Yeah, because Fee Waybill was doing the "You're number one" speech, and then meets with the rest of the band on the stage, and they did this song live. Oh my goodness. Although they used the instrumental backing track over the PA, but they sang the vocals live. Oh man. And the next track on the reissue of the album, which I'll talk about where you can try and find it, is a song called What's Wrong With Me, which was the B-side to Talk to You Later. And this is a great rockin' tune written by the band, sung by guitarist Bill Spooner. Excuse me. And this song, I don't know any other backstory, but it's a great tune, up-tempo rockin' ditty, and I think the song should have been on the album, but the only reason it didn't fit on the album was because of the song, the time constraints of the vinyl record. Because you can only fit up to like 20 minutes per side of an album in those days. But the song is great. It's overlooked in the grand scheme of things. But Bill Spooner, like I said, he was the unsung hero of the band. In fact, after he left the band just kind of went south. I mean, it's not the same without him, and it's not the same without Vince Welnick or Rick Anderson, the other 3 members of the band who are along, and Mike Cotton, who's not in the band anymore either. You needed those 7 cats to create the Tubes magic that they created up through 1985. Although that 1985 album wasn't that great, but that's neither here nor there. But the song, What's Wrong With Me, there's nothing wrong with the song. I think it's great. And the other track that was released as a bonus track on one of the reissues of the Completion Backward Principle, the CD in 2011, was a song they did for the movie Modern Problems with Chevy Chase called Gonna Get It Next Time, which is a great rockin' tune, mid-tempo ditty, but the band plays great. Steve Lukather again on guitar, shredding like a mofo, just kicking everybody right square in the boo-boo. And this song is great. I know why it wasn't released on the album, because it was not completed in time. It may have been on the album, but I think the band was like, well, we don't want to bleed the album format to death. Because in those days of vinyl records, you could only fit so much on vinyl. But the song was released as a single, and it would not be released on a Tubes album proper until the 2011 reissue of the CD on Icon Classic Records, which this version of the album is now kind of hard to find, but a great song nevertheless. And my opinion of the Completion Backward Principle is just it's a phenomenal record. And the Completion Backward Principle, if I'm not mistaken, peaked at number 35 on the Billboard album charts, if I'm not mistaken. I'm on Billboard.com right now. Yeah, the album peaked at number 36, on the Billboard album chart.
And the album is a gold selling record, but it hasn't been certified by the RIAA or Capitol for that matter. But this was the album that broke them through nationwide finally after being a cult group for most of the 70s. This album started their career to go further places in the 1980s, and this album is phenomenal. A lot of great songs on it, and top to bottom, one of the best albums of the 1980s. And it's my favorite 1980s Tubes album, because the next album, Outside Inside, would go to even greater heights, which featured She's a Beauty. Grab the CD here, I have it in my face here. She's a Beauty, Out of the Business. A cover of the Monkey Time, which featured Martha Davis of the Motels on duet vocal if you bought the album, and one of their dancers if you bought the single, because Motels' manager and their bosses at Capitol did not want them competing with one another. But then again, the Motels and the Tubes were competing against the likes of Duran Duran, Iron Maiden, and Bob Seger for success on the album charts in those days. Because by 83, Maiden were huge with Peace of Mind and a few other things. I'll talk about them later. But yeah, Outside Inside's another great record. The one that came after that, I think it's called Time Bomb or something. I haven't heard that one, but I'm kind of nervous about it. But in the grand scheme of things, the Tubes should have been a bigger band. I mean, this band has been so overlooked. I mean, in the rock and roll circles, they sold a lot of tickets, but album sales-wise, they were not on par with any of those other big bands. I mean, and Capitol dropped the ball promoting this band. I mean, they did a good job with Bob Seger. They did a great job with Iron Maiden and Duran Duran. I mean, Maiden were selling, Maiden were selling millions of albums with MTV videos, just like the Tubes were. But unlike Duran Duran, Maiden were not the most photogenic-looking bunch of dudes, and neither were the Tubes. Oh, my goodness. And to those who say Styx were theatrical, the Tubes said, hold our beer. And because the Tubes took concert theatrics to the extreme. I mean, the guy that helped choreograph their shows was one Kenny Ortega, who was a blessing and a curse to depending on which band he worked with. Because he directed videos for, not only was he attached to the Tubes, but he would eventually direct Supertramp's My Kind of Lady from their famous Last Words album, which some fans did not like seeing the members of the band with, some people are like, oh my goodness, who are these Supertramp guys? They should just go back behind their beards. Oh my goodness. And then, of course, Kenny Ortega was also famous for the Robotos in the Mr. Roboto clip from Styx. Yeah, he's the one that did the Roboto choreography. And the band, that video and that song and that album, Kilroy Was Here, which will be a future episode in its own right, that song and that album tore apart the fan base of Styx. It brought new fans, but it pissed off a lot of the old hardcore fans who wanted to hear Grand Illusion 3 or Pieces of 8-3 or Son of Paradise Theater. And then, of course, Kenny Ortega was famous also for destroying the career of Billy Squier with that Rock Me Tonight video. Because up until then, Billy Squier was like the biggest rock star. In fact, he was on Capitol Records along with the Tubes and the Motels and Iron Maiden and Duran Duran and Bob Seger. But that one video for Rock Me Tonight ruined Billy's career. He should have done what Bruce Springsteen did, should have done what Stevie Nicks did, and he should have done what a few other people did. Pull that video down, reshoot it on a shoestring budget as a performance clip, save face. Oh my goodness. Kenny Ortega, I'm not a fan of some of the movies he's done, but what he did for the Tubes was good, but what he did to Styx and Supertramp and Billy Squier, hard to judge. But what can you do? And on a sad note, we've lost two of the members of the band in the last 20 some odd years. First, in 2006, we lost Vince Welnick to suicide in 2006. He
was dealing with depression for many, many years. After he left the band, he did join the Grateful Dead, but I don't think he ever got over the death of his friend Jerry Garcia. He didn't play on any Grateful Dead albums, but he did tour with them from 1990 onward after their keyboard player Brent Midland kicked the bucket. He took over and was their keyboard player up until the day that Jerry Garcia passed on. And then just a year or two ago, we lost bass player, co-founder Rick Anderson at the age of 74, 75 years old to cancer. This review is respectfully dedicated to the memories of Rick Anderson and Vince Welnick, and I'm hoping for, good health for Michael Cotton, Fee Waybill, Prairie Prince, Roger Steen, and Bill Spooner. Waybill, Steen, and Prince still play as the Tubes every now and again as concerts go. Michael Cotton retired from the band a long time ago, and Bill Spooner, him leaving the band saved his life because he got himself clean and sober and is busy doing things on a lower scale, releasing music on an independent label and caring for his 2 kids and devoted to his wife. So he got out of the rock and roll game, and it saved him. Sometimes you have to make a lifestyle in a life-changing event to survive, because if you don't, you're doomed. And luckily, Bill Spooner is one of the few that left the rock and roll world and now is doing like folk rock type records, but quality material. He still has what it takes, and he's still making music, but you have to look hard and go to like Bandcamp and stuff to find it, because you're not going to find it on Amazon.com or YouTube or whatever, but you have to comb through to the thing called Bandcamp to promote and find these things. So on that note, that's my look at the completion backward principle by the Tubes. And my picks of the moment, I'm going to stick with 1981. First will be the reissued edition, if you can find it, although it's a little hard to find. You have to look for it on Discogs or wherever you can find it cheap. The expanded edition of the completion backward principle, which brings the original album plus the 4 bonus tracks, Tube Talk, What's Wrong With Me, Sports Fans Ain't Gonna Get It Next Time. And it was remastered by Vic Anacini at Battery Studios in New York. And also the aforementioned live at German television concert Music Laden, recorded in April 1981. And you have a number of the songs from the album. So you have A Matter of Pride live, Think About Me, Talk to You Later, Amnesia, Mr. Hate, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, Don't Want to Wait Anymore, Power Tools, Sushi Girl, Let's Make Some Noise. Oh man. And this band, phenomenal, wonderful, great. So if you don't know where to start with the Tubes, this is your best bet. And you can get the CD, a Japanese press, on Amazon.com for like $13. But then, looking for that aforementioned reissue that I recommend is a little more pricey, but if you love the album like as much as I do, it's well worth it. And before I go, here's some plugs for some other radio shows and podcasts I like you all people and YouTube channels I want you all to tune on into. And I'll be back with my final word right after this. Check out The Rockin' Tours with Guy Pratt and Gary Kemp, both from Nick Mason's Saucerful of Secrets. Also check out Eddie Trunk's podcast. How can anyone not like Eddie Trunk? It's humanly impossible. And of course the Chris Jericho podcast, Y2J for the Win. And the following YouTube channels: Michael Borland's Classic Rock channels on YouTube, John Bowden's various Classic Rock YouTube channels. He's awesome. Freeform Rock podcast with my buddy Mark Alden Taylor. That's recommended as well. The Villain Cult podcast with Roy Dam, Eric Lawton, and Mike Lockhart. How can anyone not like those guys? Classic Rock Review. That's recommended. The Professor of Rock. Darren Locke, he's recommended. He's funny. He's deadpan British humor, but God bless him. Melinda Murphy's channel's recommended. Brandon Snyder, great YouTuber. Pete Pardo, Sea of Tranquility. The Man, the Myth, the Legend. And my new favorite, JCM Led Zeppelin Stories. Jose is the king of Led Zeppelin, and the man who's got more copies of In Through the Outdoor than any other human being I know in my life. He has about 50 some odd copies of it. and his YouTube channels and his deep dives into Zeppelin things. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And if you're not a Zeppelin fan, check out his channel. You'll be very surprised, guaranteed. Then again, he's the same dude who got me into Santana as of late. JCM, I want to thank you for that, brother. And you're more than welcome to come on my show. And you and I definitely will have to do a collaboration one of these days. We'll have to figure out the time and the place. So before I go, here's some recommendations for other podcasts and so forth and so on. I want you fans to give your love to. And to quote General MacArthur, I shall return.
Hi, this is Mark Olden Taylor from the Freeform Rock Podcast, where we rock and roll all night and party every day. Come check us out on iTunes and Podbean. Thank you very much.
Hey everybody, I'm Aaron.
And I'm Chris.
And we're from the Decibel Geek Podcast. And if you love this...
then you'll love us.
That's right. Brand new episode every single Monday. You can find us on iTunes and at decibelgeek.com. And the best thing is, it's rock and roll and it's always free.
Mistress Carey reporting for duty. That's right. After rocking the airwaves in Boston for 22 years on WAAF, welcome to the Mistress Carey Podcast. And if you love rock, this weekly podcast is for you. I'll introduce you to new bands that I think you are going to love and keep you in touch with the bands that are already your favorites. I'll take you backstage and expose you to the people behind the rock. Plus, we'll talk about everything else that we know and love, like motorcycles, tattoos, skydiving, hot rods, food, booze, and so much more. And let's not forget all of the branches of our military, our veterans, and first responders. Everything you know and loved about the Mistress Carey Show, but now I'm unfiltered and uncensored. Fuck yeah! And if you never heard me before, well, welcome to the party. Subscribe now so you don't miss Mistress Carey Podcast.
Please state the nature of the medical emergency.
Brain damage with Pink Floyd.
This stuff can give you brain damage.
In an Pink Floyd radio show.
Use only as directed.
There is no downside in the moon, really. Matter of fact, it's all
Your controls are set to the Random Precision Radio Network. This is Floody and Slip, an hour of Pink Floyd. I'm Craig Bailey. Find us online at floodyanslip.com. Write to us at pink at floodyanslip.com. Floody and Slip is a Random Precision production.
You're listening to Nights with Alice Cooper. I think my Speedo is starting to cut off the flow of oxygen to my head. And that's why I got so
temperamental with anyone who has the impertinence to question his wisdom. And hello, out pops his inner courier.
Hi, and welcome to In the Studio. Redbeard here with the stories behind history's greatest rock and roll albums. Follow In the Studio on Facebook, at Redbeard Rocks on Twitter, and online at inthestudio.net.
Well, my friends, the Brainiac has got to give his cranium a rest. But thanks for tuning on into this fine episode. I'll be back soon with another one. Getting sick was not in my vernacular, but I did get ill, but I'm better, and I'm hopefully going to get back to editing things. And on top of that, I'll be re-airing the Pink Floyd The Wall episode with some modifications, removing many of the profanities, but then adding a little rant and rave to some guy who doesn't like the film version of the said album. And I have a few spoilers about that cretin who doesn't like it. Nostalgic critic, be warned. The classic rock Brainiac is going to come for your hide, whatever you call yourself now. And I know who your real name is, Doug Cranky Reviewer, you stupid bastard. Folks, I don't mean to get off topic and be that vile, but that's exactly what the guy is. So the rants and raves of yours truly will be coming back strong. And new episodes, old but new, new but old, or whatever. So for now, it's the classic rock brainiac, Terrence Reardon, saying, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, I love you all, thanks for your patience and waiting, I understand you, good night, God bless you. TJR's Classic Rock Corner was written, produced, edited, so forth and so on by yours truly, the classic rock brainiac, Terrence Reardon. The intro music and the outro music is done by the one and only Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin. Copyright 2024 TJR Rock Sponge Incorporated. All rights reserved. Once again, I thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for listening. Good night. God bless you.